Objective Objectivity, Number 2. What is objectivity? This entire series rests on the premise that there is an objective reality, a fundamental truth. Put another way, everything that happens in our universe happens at a certain time, in a certain place, and in a certain way. So, if our premise is correct, we know that any particular past event happened one way and one way only. Objectivity begins with the quest to understand what has happened as accurately as possible. Why does the past matter? Because everything we do is an attempt to control future events. Everything. We breathe so our bodies will function. We move objects to achieve comfort, satisfaction, or pleasure. We communicate to get more data to better move objects or to get comfort, satisfaction, or pleasure from the communication itself. Even if we are dwelling on some past trauma, we are working on how we will feel better about it going forward. The simpler something is, the easier it is to predict its behavior. We can predict how an element such as gold or iron will behave under certain circumstances by testing it and recording the results. There is little, if any, variation if all factors are truly the same. While we generally cannot predict the stopping place of individual grains of sand poured onto a table, the more we know about the sand, the table, and the environment around them, the more accurately we can predict the distribution of the pile. Living things are generally much more complex than inanimate ones, with more variation between individuals in a species than between, say, grains of sand from a particular spot on a beach. Even so, every living species has physical characteristics and common behaviors that define that species and allow us to predict with a high level of certainty what noise a robin will make, what kind of food it will eat, and what sorts of places it will choose to build its nest. Humans, with their ability to create mental images of the world, recombine those images in a myriad of ways, and to act on those newly created mental combinations are far more complex and thus far harder to predict. So, trying to be objective is trying to know precisely what has happened in the past so that we can more accurately predict possible future events. We predict the future in order to guide our actions. The more complete and accurate your data, the better your prediction will be and the more effective your actions will be. Let's consider an example. Imagine you are a Paleolithic hunter with nothing but a stone-tipped spear to hunt with. Yesterday, a member of your tribe told you they saw a beautiful stag pass through a narrow gap between two huge boulders. A stag would provide lots of excellent meat, but it's hard to get close to a stag, and they can injure or kill you with their horns and hooves. If you hid on top of the boulders, you might be able to take the stag with relatively little effort and danger. What are you going to do? You might wonder, is my tribe member a reliable witness? Is the stag ever going to pass that way again? Will other deer use that path? I'm sure you can think of other nice things to know before deciding if waiting on a boulder is likely to be a good use of your time. If your tribe has observed over time that every year for several days after the first frost of the year, at least 50 deer pass between those rocks, it would be a lot easier to decide what to do, wouldn't it? It would be even better if you knew the deer usually came through between dawn and sunrise. So, you have collected data about a hunting opportunity. You are now ready to use that data to attempt to take the stag. You can also use this attempt as an experiment by carefully remembering details of the hunt, such as how you hid yourself, what time the deer showed up, how many were there, how effective the spear was, how did any other deer that were there react, etc. You would then have data from both observation over time and your first boulder hunt experiment. Collecting data is the first step, but proper evaluation techniques are critical to planning effective future actions. What if your tribal shaman said he had a magic herb that would give you the strength to jump down on the stag and take it with your bare hands? What if your best friend suggested that since the deer came right after the first frost, you could save winter ice in a cave and spread it between the boulders whenever you wanted venison? These examples may seem trivial, but I want to emphasize that objectivity is a survival skill. Objectivity is actively striving to learn what has actually happened so that we can plan future actions that give us a better chance of attaining our goals. If we have lots of accurate data but use poor analytical techniques, we may plan future actions that are ineffective or even dangerous. Therefore, objectivity strives to 1. Begin with collecting accurate data from the past. 2. Use correct techniques to interpret that data into accurate predictions of possible futures. And 3. Determine the actions most likely to produce the results we desire. Why do I say strives to instead of does? Because without a permanent attitude of doubt and openness to new data and changing conclusions, objectivity is impossible. I like to formalize this intellectual openness as the probability of correctness estimate, or POKE, as in poke a hole in my theory. We will discuss POKE at length in future discussions. Until next time, keep an open mind.